Moi alitukana our CDF wa Uganda, General Muhozi. Akaenda kwa Muhozi ku apologize. Nini hawakuweza kusolve hiyo vitu? So baba zenu are aware of the tempo that has been set by His Excellency the President in terms of our endless quest to ensure we dichotomize truth and expand the sources of truth and expose those who continue to hide under the veil of free and independent media to advance vendetta and a political agenda. And I think the UDA party is totally appraised of this matter and seized of it. And therefore reiterates, first and foremost, our unwavering commitment to constitutional freedoms, including the freedom of the media as guaranteed under the Constitution of Kenya. A free press remains an indispensable pillar of democracy and public accountability. At the same time, media freedoms carries an equally important responsibility to uphold the highest standards of accuracy, fairness, impartiality, and professional ethics. We have been taken aback and are increasingly concerned and astonished by instances where sections of the media appear to prioritize sensationalism over verification, commentary over facts, speculation over reporting, politicization and political affiliation as a master's free media, and the pursuit of vendetta. But I having been one of those who championed the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution, I can say both in letter and spirit, some of you don't represent what we were fighting for. You just represent an amalgam of people who, hiding behind the mask of free press, are now pursuing a political agenda, and others, like Gideon Moi, are vendetta. It's worth noting that journalists have a professional and ethical duty to publish verified, accurate, and balanced information. They should distinguish clearly between facts, opinions, and speculation, rumors, and should refrain from publishing insinuations and innuendos that are not supported by credible evidence and intended to inculcate anxiety and public pandemonium. The growing circulation of unverified misleading headlines and opinions presented as facts risk eroding public trust. And in fact, if you do your own analysis in independent Kenya's history, media used to be one of the most credible sources and trusted sources of information with extremely astronomical numbers. But because of some of you, today your opinion or the public trust is below 20%. And therefore those of you who are new and incoming in the media have to continue to protect the sanctity of that profession. And I will not allow the deepening polarization and undermining informed national discourses. Journalism should contribute to national development by informing citizens objectively, scrutinizing institutions fairly, and facilitating constructive public debate. Today's Kenyan media, particularly the Standard Group in its entirety, the Royal Media, particularly the Citizen, Media Max, particularly Kameme FM, just to mention a few, and their editors, some of their producers, anchors, and reporters have mutated into political hirelings and are conflicted. Kenyans have lost trust in their reporting. Equally, the renegade duo of Uhuru Kenyatta and Gideon Moi, and with their hirelings in some of your media houses, like Chacha Mwita, Lainas, Kaikai, and others, rather than demonstrating maturity by approaching emerging issues of national concern with sobriety, patriotism, and unity have instead metamorphosed into political opportunists, exploiting every situation as political scavengers, seeking political mileage, likes in social media, and advancing narrow, myopic, and archaic interests at the expense of national good, who their opinions have morphed in their opinions into truth and exposing shallowness and political affiliation in their direct and indirect analysis. If you choose the path of politics with us, we shall also use our forums to respond. You choose your media house to run a political agenda which we are appraised of and which we know of, like Gideon Moi or anybody, and you are hired to do an article or a piece against any of us, the politicians will respond in their platforms. You shall not continue to hide under the fake veil that you erect of independent media. Therefore, you need to recommit your troops to professional principles that have historically defined credible journalism: factual accuracy, editorial independence, balance, accountability, fairness, intellectual rigor, and I'll talk about this intellectual rigor, and respect for public's right to truthful information. I saw my dear sister Yvonne the other day trying to challenge the NTSA director whether he is being directed by UDA. The UDA and all directors of government, managing directors, ministers, execute the plan, which is the mandate given to us by the people of Kenya. It is the party that forms government, not government the party. All of them are expected to work towards the fulfillment of the pledges made by this government. The ignorance, the lack of intellectual vigor. Everybody has become an analyst of things he or she does not understand. Trying to pull off, like what Yvonne tried to do, some kind of a Mehdi Hassan or a Christian Anampo kind of bite, so that you can circulate it in TikTok. That poor attempt, constantly putting public servants and people who appear in your interviews into a line which lacks depth, critique, imagination. An NTSA Director General, a person working for the government of Kenya, works for the broad-based Kenya Kwanza, ODM government that is elected on the strength of a manifesto. In developed democracies, public servants are card-wielding members of various political parties, including judges and other people in other sectors of government. To constantly purport to pretend that you have currency in issues, asking him, what if they ask you to do something illegal? Seriously? Seriously? UDA asking somebody to do something illegal? Who the hell do you think we are? You know, it's coming to that point that these Mehdi Mohammeds, Christian Anampos wannabe, also we must respond in our podcasts, in our blogs, everywhere. They have chosen the path of politics because of the mediocrity of their leadership. We shall respond so that we can be able to give Kenyans alternative sources of information. So the alternative media, the social media, is also a new avenue that we must use to particularly dispense of information. But equally, if you want an objective debate, you must refrain from airing propaganda, innuendos, and unverified allegation diced as news, stage managed by Kalonzo Musyoka, James Orengo, and other actors, Tuju. Purported abductions, theaters, just to create, tensions, which you air. Particularly such content serve only as extortionists, for extortionist purposes and other improper purposes rather than public interest. Hii siasa muache. this government has done so much. Now nobody cares to showcase it, but we don't mind. The impact of those who have been served and enjoy the direct benefit of this government is clear, and they will validate this government a second term. The erosion of professional ethics and intellectual integrity that has always been associated with journalism has diminished the credibility of journalism in some media houses and some journalists, and undermined public confidence in the media as an institution. The profession has failed to guard itself, and we have asked several other journalists. Remember, this profession was revered of the days of Professor Hilary Ng'weno and others, to raise above these unprofessional practices and place ratings, personal vendetta, political narratives, or commercial interest above rigorous fact-checking and responsible reporting, thus superintending a den of quacks. No democratic society should be held hostage by the proliferation of fake news. And in fact, in Africa, Kenya is the highest producer of fake news. The global average is 30%. Kenya stands at about 70%. Misleading narratives, and it's because of this Christian Anampos wannabe. Misleading narratives and theories, or deliberately distorted and concocted reporting, being instituted by those with a constitutional mandate to inform the public accurately. The media has resolved to inflame public opinion. I was told some of them on the 25th of June 2024, were cheering in their media houses hoping something drastic will happen. Sijui William Ruto sijui aliwafanya nini, sijui alitaka sijui kuwaibia nini, sijui kuwachukulia nini, sijui aliwatoa NTV ndo akaenda ya Citizen. They were hoping the country would ban hype emotions and ban soft embers of public points of their interactions with information through unverified claims or manufactured controversy and misinformation. Only serves to further narrow and parochial interests and desires. These media personalities have chosen to actively participate in politics, journalistic gymnastics, and outright street activism. In fact, in the 2025 demonstrations, some of them had already placed cameras because they were briefed by the demonstrators where they are going to be. You saw they already had live cameras on certain streets, that they knew there will be people coming from Kiambu Road and other roads. They had live cameras. The majority of these anchors and presenters on both television and radio have actively engaged in politics. We invite those responsible for their media roles and join them to resign from their media roles. Kama unataka siasa, wachana na media. Fanya kama wengine waliotangulia wamekuwa, tafuta siasa. Kuna baadhi yenu are looking for positions, I'm told, and I wish them well, but I have invited some into our party. They are good men and women. Hata mimi nilipotaka kufanya siasa niliacha human rights. Wengine wamejificha nyuma ya human rights huko wanafanya siasa. Wewe acha hiyo Citizen, acha KTN, ambia Gideon Moi akuje tafute rais, aone atapata kura ngapi. Ambia Chacha Mwita akuwe running mate, waone watafanya vipi. Na ina Saikai arudi akuwe prime minister ya Uhuru Kenyatta, waone itakuwa namna gani. Acheni bwana unafiki. We can't allow this. You can't sit down constantly and malice other hard-working Kenyans, run opinions, and expect no responses. It's evil. In fact, some of you have good brand names. Sijui my investigator, manini, mamapia. Muje kutu expose. Kuja expose ndani uone. You know, you can't always make other Kenyans look like they are less deserving and less patriotic at the altar of you sitting in a small media house and reading scripts and brochures to attack others. That's why I'm happy that a lot of you are young people. We must have a discussion about this country. How wengine they should be now exiting to allow fresh blood. Hata sisi tunafikiria resignation. Mimi nafikiria some of them are older than me. Ask these people how many times I'm talking about my exiting, so that other people come to the stage. Unakalia vijana, unawapatia ile script wakuja kuchukua hapa while hiding behind the veils of media freedom. We are ready to square it out. Na kama tumeanza na Gideon, tumeanza na wengine, tutaendelea. Na hata sasa mkiwa na gang, sisi pia tutakuwa magangster. Mtaona pia vipindi vya ugangster.
Oh yes.
Si wewe unajiita gang na una attack kila mtu. Uliza huyu nani huyu? Gideon Moi alitukana our CDF wa Uganda, General Muhoozi. Akaambiwa he is not invited to Uganda. Akaenda kwa Muhoozi ku apologize. Alafu anarudi, wale watu waliompeleka anawatukana. Wale wameombewa wapatiwe second chance. Unatumia nafasi yako kutaka kulipwa madeni yako ambayo Uhuru Kenyatta ingekuwa amekulipa. Madeni yamekuwa incurred na Uhuru Kenyatta, na Uhuru Kenyatta na babako walikuwa wakati mmoja. Kwa nini hawakuweza kusolve hiyo vitu? So baba zenu ni mabeste, nyinyi ni mabeste. Mbona asikulipe uje kutuambia sisi tukulipe? Alafu Chacha anaandika statement, anajiona mwerevu ati walipwe deni yao. Anajiona mwerevu sana. In fact, I'm happy that a lot of you in KTN work as volunteers, because wajua mtu ukiwa mrongo KTN standard, ukiwa mrongo si mnasema malipo ni hapa na nyinyi hakuna malipo. Na ile hasira yako ya kutolipwa, unakuja hapo unakuja kutafuta fake news. Watu wote watasema UDA imesema hivi. Wewe KTN na hasira yako ambayo sisi badala ya kwenda kuwekea Gideon Moi, badala ya kwenda kudemonstrate kama yule mwingine pale kwa gate, unaenda kuandika headline ya Omolo. Omolo umekufanya nini? The media outlets, together with those who bankroll and guarantee their conduct, have become a threat also to the national security. Constantly, consistently, and deliberately pursuing a scheme of profiling and undermining the work of security agencies and heads of these security agencies. We include madawake mnataka watu who can't speak for themselves kama Douglas Kanja. Douglas Kanja amekufanya nini? Wewe Standard Group, kila kati unamweka kwa headline yako na viringa watu around him, amekufanya nini? Ama Kipchumba Murkomen, ama jana mkaanza kumaccuse Omolo of abduction including of his own friends. Mtu ambaye Omolo ndio ana support point 10, mtu aende UK, wewe unamweka hapo kwa kina Gabriel Oguta, unaweka hapo unverified false claims, consistently pursuing those unjustified lines of mediocrity, so that then you can diminish the integrity and credibility of the structures and the apparatus of national security, including its leadership, so that tomorrow you may cause mayhem and then blame it on them. Kila siku yule jamaa Munyoro, kila siku kama Murkomen amemfanya nini? Yeye ni Murkomen. Chana Murkomen bwana. Wewe ulishindwa na kazi ya kuwa namba 2 ya nchi. Hawezi kuwa namba 2, wazani na Murkomen, wazani na UDA constantly. And it's just a political ploy. And these are the news that sensationalize the public domain. Na sisi sasa ndio tumesema as a party, sisi ndio tutajibia hii watu. Na watu wetu yote wakisimama katika majukwaa, katika podcast zenu, katika mitandao yenu, jibu kwa niaba hii watu. You cannot continue to attack people who cannot speak back defenseless. Because Kanja can't speak politically. Unajua Omolo can't speak politically. But when Gideon, you have made him your tool of vengeance. So, instead of supporting the rule of law, you have increasingly, some of them, provided platforms for individuals accused of breaking the law, often granting them prime-time coverage to sanitize, glorify, and justify unlawful conduct and violence. And this is one of the reasons, actually, I have decided to give this press conference. Because, you know, we sanitized and normalized violence. It takes today, this country, and I, no, I'm also a parent of young girls. Leo watoto wadogo kwa ajili ya kukosa hekima, kwa ajili ya kukosa uadilifu, kwa ajili ya kukosa uhandisi ile professional expectations, ukaongea mbaya, ukasema mambo ya ghasia. Leo we are mourning 2 sets of girls, 16 who are burnt to death, may the Almighty rest their souls, and 8 young girls who face an uncertain future. You know how hard it is for both these parents? Mtoto wako amewekwa remand, mtoto wa miaka 14, yule anasema mommy, daddy, because somebody in the media anajiona yeye ni Christian anampo, anajiona yeye ni Wolf Blitzer, anajiona yeye ni Anderson Cooper, yeye anajiona ni Mehdi Hassan, anataka likes, anataka retweets. They radicalized these young people. They exposed them to violence. They were airing violence on TV. They were airing violence everywhere. Is your conscience clear? You have destroyed 24 young girls in the ages of 14 to 16 years. Wewe unajua remand, ndugu. Watoto wadogo maskini facing an uncertain future, life in prison. Now they have taken the lives of others because of this normalization. Now that's why sahi ukavunda hata pencil ya serikali, you will be charged. We must make sure that we tell our people that violence is wrong and violence will be punished. There shall be no impunity. Enda sahi tukupate umevunja hata pencil ya serikali, you will take responsibility. This is what has led to this unjustified public reporting under the pretext of free media and politics. Imeleta watoto wamekuwa na hii kind of transgressions. Angalia hata civilized society wameban other societies wameban social media, including the UK. It is because of people, editors, who have no sense of social responsibility. They do not know who they are talking to. Na nimeona nyote hapa actually that point mmekubaliana na mimi. It is the most heartbreaking. Watoto 8 wanaletwa wamefungwa hivi bana. Na yote ni mtu anajiona Christian anampo. Yote ni mtu amereport inaccurate. Yote ni mtu ana live broadcast violence. Anafanya kila mtu awe defiant. Anatukana rais, anatukana deputy, anatukana wenzake, anatukana kila mtu. It's not right bwana. It's not fair. And by normalizing criminality and presenting lawlessness as a fashionable act of courage or a new form of social swagger, they risk encouraging impunity, eroding public confidence in the law and other law enforcement agencies. We advise Kenyans to cultivate media literacy by constituting multiple credible sources of information, verifying information before sharing it, and relying on public official government communication on matters of government agenda, as those who are custodians and gatekeepers of vital sources have abandoned their cardinal obligation and begun engaging in out and out lies and falsehoods with utter recklessness. Na nilikuwa nimesahau issue moja. I had to mention this. And it's not about media. The other day